Hey everyone, it's Angela Allen. Welcome back to the Handmade Homestead and Garden. In this video, I want to take you all on a little bit of a journey. We're going to talk about the art of thin batter. We are going to use sourdough starter. You can use regular bread flour and or all-purpose flour. You don't have to use sourdough starter, but we're going to just because the flavor is so good. So I'm going to get my sourdough out of the refrigerator. It's been sitting in there resting for about a week. I'm going to get it fed, and then it is going to wake up overnight, and I will work with it tomorrow and get these recipes started for you. So I'm already in my jammies. Let's go. So I'm going to get 2 jars of starter going for my recipes for tomorrow. I don't need a lot of starter because I'm going to make 5 different recipes, but I really don't need to make a lot of each recipe because whatever I make, my family's going to have to eat. So I don't want stacks and stacks of bread products on the counter that we have to eat in a couple of days. I measure with my heart. I don't worry too much about actually measuring or weighing things. Some big scoops of flour, some water. I try to do, a third starter, a third water, a third flour, but I don't overly worry about it. I look for consistency more than I look for measurement. So this should look like thin to medium thick pancake batter. Whatever you prefer to work with is fine. All right, let's put this to bed and I will see you in the morning. Well, good morning. Let's get rolling. I will give you the ingredients that I'm using, but I am not going to give you exact measurements because, again, I'm going to do small batches of each item, and recipes are easily found on the internet. So let's start with sourdough waffles. Waffles are one of my family favorites. So that's flour and then sugar. I'm going to add just a little bit of salt and then some sourdough starter. But again, if you're not starting with sourdough starter, that's fine. You don't have to worry about that. You can leave it out. You'll just have to adjust your water ratio. I love the starter. It does add a lot of flavor and it does add fullness. This is 1 egg from our chickens. There's a secret ingredient here, which I'm going to show you in a minute. There's a little bit of milk. That will be our liquid of choice. I'm going to get that mixed around because my last ingredient is going to be baking soda. A little bit of baking soda adds a lot of volume. There's just some butter. So baking soda reacts with the lactic acid in the sourdough starter, and it gives you really thick, fluffy pancakes, waffles, really any bread product that you want fluffier. All you have to do is add baking soda if you're using sourdough starter. If you're not, then it doesn't matter. It's not going to get all that fluffy anyway unless you add baking powder. So we're going to mix that really well, just enough so that there's no lumps. And it's a little bit thinner, slightly thinner than pancake batter. If it's too thick, it's hard to get it to move around on the waffle iron. This is my favorite waffle iron. You can find a link for that down below in my Amazon shop under appliances. It's a Hamilton Beach waffle iron. One of the reasons I love it best is because those plates you see right there are easily removable to clean. They pop right out. Run them under some hot water, use a little bit of a soapy cloth, and you have like perfectly clean plates. You can see how this thing looks brand new, and I use it all the time. My family loves it. We do a lot of things in it, not just sourdough waffles, but sourdough waffles are our favorite. You can see how they're really thick, nice, big Belgian style waffles. They cook really pretty quickly, even though you're doing one at a time. 1 or 2 is definitely enough when you're having a meal because they are so big. They come out really crispy. That's why I put sugar in them. Sugar helps to make them crispy. I did put a little smidgen of vanilla extract in this too, but I forgot to tape that part. You can see how they're super fluffy and very crispy on the outside, and they smell so good. They have a little bit of cinnamon in them too. And this is just corn cob jelly, believe it or not, and it's so good. It is so good. All right, the other thin pourable batter bread product that we love in our family definitely is pancakes. And I'm going to make banana pancakes here, but you can make plain pancakes. You can add fruit to your pancakes, whatever you prefer. I just happened to have a banana that needed to be used up, so I mashed that up, putting in some cinnamon, some butter, an egg from our chickens. Boy, I put those in everything to use them up. That's a little bit of sugar. Again, the sugar helps make the outside edges of the pancake a little crispy in the same way it does the waffles. This is homemade orange extract that I'm adding. You can use vanilla extract or leave it out, totally up to you. And now I'm going to dump in a bunch of sourdough starter. Again, you can use discard or fed starter. That's totally up to you. I'm going to put a little bit of milk in there, and now I'm going to stir it. I always stir really well before I add baking soda when I do pancakes. The baking soda is going to give that a lift when it reacts, and I don't want to stir that out. So I'm going to add some baking powder too. We want a nice fluffy pancake here. Nothing like a nice fluffy pancake. So the pan is already warm. It is a well-seasoned pan, so I heated the pan, and then it's only on a low temp. Once it got warm, then I put the oil in so that the food won't stick. And there's my first pancake. Now you can add anything you want to these pancakes. You can add fruit, you can add cinnamon, you can add dried fruit. It's totally up to you. I just used the banana because I had one I needed to use up. The secret for pancakes, for those that are new to the pancake market, is let them get all these air holes. See the air holes on the pancake? The edges should be dry and pretty well cooked, and there should be lots of nice air holes before you flip. And then don't touch it. Let it rise. You'll see it actually rise up once it hits the heat. So there's pancakes for you. And again, I don't want to make too many because my family has to eat whatever I make in the next couple of days. So now let's talk about tortillas. Now you can roll out authentic tortillas and they are delicious, or you can just make pourable ones in a jiffy and they're pretty darn good too. They are a little chewier, I think. So it's just flour, baking powder, a little bit of salt. These are just some herbs for flavor, and water, of course. I'm gonna mix that together just so that it blends a little bit. Water, and then sourdough starter. Now, if you don't want to use sourdough starter, you can just use water. Just do it so that you have a very thin batter. So I'm gonna mix this sourdough starter for a minute just to blend it, and don't worry about that. That sourdough starter is all going to be used today, so it doesn't matter that there's a little baking powder on my whisk. It's just a little dust, a little bit of oil. There are lots of really good pourable tortilla recipes online that you can find. So I'm going to just start getting that, incorporate a little bit, add water. The secret to making pourable tortillas is the batter does need to be very thin, almost the same thinness that you'd use in a crepe batter, which is another thing that you can make this way with sourdough starter. But you want to stir, stir, stir until there are no lumps left. That makes sure that the oil you added is well incorporated and it's a smooth batter, and you can see that's a screaming hot pan. You're going to ladle it in and then spread it out as thin as you can without tearing it. You have to be super gentle, and you're not going to let it cook too long on each side because that pan, again, is pretty hot to start out with. Once my pan gets really hot, I do turn the temperature down and it holds the heat because it's cast iron. So you're going to turn it frequently and you're going to press down around the edges, and I don't know if you can hear that or not, but it's making a squeaking sound, which it's kind of funny, but it's just because it's pushing the air into the center, flattening out the edges of the tortilla, pushing the air into the center, and it will start to kind of bubble up in the center as it cooks. Don't forget to turn it frequently, press down on the edges frequently until you get some nice toasty brown spots. And then I usually place them in a towel and keep them covered, but you can see they're nice and soft and pliable, and they are really delicious. All right, next up is flatbread. So this comes out kind of like naan, but pretty much every culture has some kind of flatbread. Now I'm going to cut up a bunch of herbs. This is mint and green onions, and I'm going to cut them very fine so that I can mix them into the bread dough for flavor. This is one of those recipes that I like best if I use very active sourdough starter because it's really bubbly, but you can use discard for it as well. And you can actually not use sourdough and just use baking powder and baking soda and regular flour and still achieve a flatbread in your skillet. I'm not baking this one either. So a little bit of salt. Salt's a leavening agent. It's also flavor, and flavor is important. In goes some roasted garlic olive oil. Might as well have the flavor too. The garlic goes really well with this kind of bread. And I put about 2 tablespoons in, but you'll have to just check your recipe. Then I'm going to add some water to get this to the consistency that I want. And I am looking for something thicker than pancake batter, because again, I'm making a chewy bread. It does kind of look like a pancake, depends on the shape you make it when you pour it in the pan, but it does have a chewy non-texture to it, even though it does kind of look like a pancake when I did it, because I did them round, but it doesn't really matter. You can do that oblong shape that naan would have if you want. Again, hot pan, oil on the bottom, and then you can see how that is thicker batter. And I'm just going to kind of move it around, but you don't want to thin it out. You want it to have some thickness. It's going to bake in that pan kind of in the same way that an English muffin would bake in the pan, only it's a thin pourable dough. And then you're going to flip it after it's cooked on one side and let it cook on the other. And you can take a brush, a pastry brush, and maybe add butter or oil and a little sprinkling of salt to them as well. All right, I have one more for you. Let's see if you can guess what this is. Again, that is a very hot frying pan. It was in my oven to heat up, and I did oil the bottom of it. You can see the oil bubbling there. And this is very active sourdough starter. Again, you can use discard. It would be thinner, but I like this bottom crust to be thicker, so I do use active sourdough starter when I can. It's just salt and some Italian herbs, and then it's going to go in the oven. It's the only one I'm going to bake out of these recipes, but this one really is necessary to bake. And you're going to bake it in a hot oven until it starts to pull aside from the edges. And you'll notice I didn't add anything to this. It was just sourdough starter, some salt, and some herbs in the pan. That's it. There's no recipe for making pizza crust. You just pour it in a hot pan, and that's what you get. Now, this is by no means an exhaustive list. There are a lot of things you can make with liquid batter, and one of my favorites is sourdough crackers, and I do have a video for that. I will leave a link for that video at the end of this one, so you can check that out. Sourdough crackers have to be my absolute favorite way to use liquid batter like sourdough starter, but you again can use regular dough, flour, and water. You don't have to use sourdough starter for crackers either. You can find links in my Amazon shop down below for any of the kitchen items that I used here. And I will see you next time. Take care.